Dairy farming is a class of agriculture for long-term production of milk, which is processed for eventual sale of a dairy product. Dairy production is one of the fastest growing enterprises in Uganda. It contributes to increasing rural incomes, improving livelihoods, food and nutrition security. The production capacity is based on the quality and number of animals raised on the farm. This can be improved by ensuring adequate supply of animal feeds and having good housing conditions. On today's episode, we are in Mbarara at HIGHMARK Dairy Farm to learn more about dairy farming for maximum productivity.
My name is Nicholas Masiko. I'm the director of HIGHMARK Dairy Farm. Our main enterprise here is dairy, zero grazing in particular. We produce milk, and our milk, of course, goes to the market for the final consumer, but we still deal with the middleman, the person who picks it from here and then does the final distribution. In the dairy itself, we do breed animals for sale to mostly our peri-urban farmers who are interested in quality animals from our farm. We also do trainings for farmers who are interested in learning how to look after their animals. We do trainings for university students and other students in the farm institutes, and also do for farmers who are interested. We have a well-developed water system for irrigation and for our animals, and we also offer technical advice as far as the water systems on the farm, on farms is concerned, and also the farm structures. The cows on my left are the milking cows currently, and we've separated them from the cows on the right. The cows on the right are the dry cows. What do I mean when I talk of dry cows? The cows that are not currently milking. The heifers that are pregnant and about to calve, and those that have already calved and they are pregnant and they are about to calve also. So they are feeding, nutrition is different from each other. So whereas here we give a little bit of more, feeds more in calcium and other minerals and also protein, these ones we tend to lessen on calcium because they are only building their bodies in preparation for calving down. So these are our calves which are still on milk, and we keep them from day 1 up to 3 months. So from day 1 to 3 months they are on milk, and then we keep producing in some supplements for them, and then after 3 months we take them off the milk and they continue feeding on hay and other supplements until 1 year, when they start feeding on minimal supplementation, and then we start introducing more supplements when they're about 2 months to calve. The heifer doesn't require a lot of attention. The biggest attention is on the young stock, the calves, and the milking cows, all those that are about to start milking. Most of the people, the mistake they make is to ignore these cows, and they tend to give them less milk and then affect their growth rates. Yet these are the very animals that you expect to get maximum production when they grow up. So my appeal to farmers is to always look at their young stock and pay much attention to them as much as possible. The biggest investment should be going into the young stock. From the milking, after 3 months, then those are taken here for conditioning. You can see the young stock there. Those are between 3 and 6 months, 3 and something and 6 months. Then from there, they come here to join these ones until they start getting served, like being inseminated. So from here, then that's when once they're inseminated, that's when they cross to the other structure. A few animals here, those that may be a little bit weak, we bring them here, or if they have any sickness, we bring them here for special attention. We isolate them from the other ones, and keep them here for special attention until they are better. Then they can return to wherever they are. Down here, we have the two Ankole cows with the long-horned cows. We brought them at 1 week old, and we tried as much as possible to feed them like the exotics. We were not, of course, satisfied because at that 1 week they had already lost something on the other side. We kept them here. We inseminated them. One was able to conceive, but unfortunately in the end it gave birth to a stillbirth, and the calf died. The milking was not bad. We pushed it about 6 liters, but we were not okay because of the way we were feeding it there, and because it didn't have a structure to shade it from the sun. And the reason is because where they were in this structure, they started fighting with the other ones which didn't have horns, and we had to isolate them. But now we've resorted, instead of using the Ankole semen that we get from Entebbe, we are resorting to getting them a bull that will stay with them, but still a pure Ankole bull. And then once we get calves from them, we want to dehorn those calves and then feed them like we feed these exotics. And then we see if these cows can actually produce like the exotics. And if we succeed in that, then for me, as this under this farm, we will not be entertaining these exotics. We'll go back to our own local cows, and that will be used to produce the milk that we want. The reason is we're looking at the resistance. They have a higher resistance to ticks and these diseases, and that's the attribute we wanted to pick from them. And secondly, they can also be dual purpose. They can produce as milk and also still be sold for beef. In here we have Sideage. That is the stored feed, the feed that we store fresh, and through fermentation we're able to preserve it as long as we want. And we usually get a lot of forages during the drainage season. Sometimes some of those forages are hard to dry, so we decide to store them by fermentation in an airtight chamber, and then we get what we call silage. So basically what is stored under this is about 300 tons of napier grass as silage. Currently the pit we are using, or the silage we are using, is here, which we did last year, and we're currently feeding on this. We still have about 4 months here before we can go to the other pit. So basically this is, we use it as a supplement. So we mix it with our hay, and then plus the other supplements like the brewer's spent grain or mash, and our maize. We also mill grain, mix and then put in other minerals and a little bit of protein, and then we are able to feed the cows. Underneath there, where you see a heap of soil, in this middle pit, we have the spent grain from the brewery, which is stored under here. And through the same process of fermentation under airtight conditions, we're able to store this for as long as we can. So we usually get supplies, and then first we get the supplies, we store them underground, and then we keep picking from these to feed our cows. Our last supply is finished. We are now going to open this, but we are going to mill the maize. We keep picking from the milled maize, and then we mix it with our spent grain, and then we're able to feed our cows as a source of energy and a little protein from the brewer's mash. We look at the cheaper sources that we can utilize in order to produce milk as cheaply as possible. Here we may not go for the highest production per unit animal because of cost of milk, because of the price of milk. But if we had the right pricing, then we would be able to pick the maximum out of these cows. We still feed minimal in order to fall into our the price bracket within this region. But otherwise, if we are given the right pricing, our cows have the potential to go to even 35 liters a day. So we go look at the stores for our pastures and probably look at the goats. So this is where we store our hay. Hay is, of course, the dry pasture. Once we get the pasture dry, after slashing, we slash dry, and then we bale. Baling only helps in transportation and storage. But otherwise, grass like this can still be fed to a cow comfortably. The only challenge is that it is costly to transport this. On the vehicle, you'll find that you have very little grass that fits on the truck, yet you'll have to make many trips. As opposed to when you bale and you have more grass on the truck per unit trip. So the purpose of baling is basically to transport as much as possible and also store as much as possible in a smaller place. But otherwise, if you're a small-scale farmer, you're not going to sell pastures or feeds, sometimes you don't need it to bale. You only bring your dry grass that is dry, you store it, and you'll be picking from the store and feeding your animals. But here, because we have a baler, and because also sometimes we pick this grass from the far off, so we are forced to bale, and this has helped us to transport a little bit cheaply, but also storing it. We store a lot within a smaller given space. Once we got the machine to bale, our feed security went high because we were able to have as much feeds as possible. Now the excess, as I told you, some of the cows were sold off to invest in somewhere else. So the excess pastures that we get, we sell them off. And we've got a lot of farmers that come here for hay. We've not advertised it because we will not be able to meet the demand. So it's by referrals that some of the farmers come here and pick some of our extra feeds. Our challenge here, of course, for example, the demand from the peri-urban farmers in Kampala is so huge. Our biggest challenge is the transport. Because for hay, you need a high or a specialized truck where it's not heavy, the weight is not so much, but it's bulky. So you need a specialized truck that will take as much of this grass as possible instead of taking a few bales, and yet it's going to be costly per unit bale. The beauty with hay is that if you have the right conditions, that is, you have sun, a few days of sun, you are able to do as much hay as possible. The feeding in terms of hay, you don't feed as much as you feed these other fresh forages or silage or other things. You feed a little of this hay. Once a cow gets enough for what it requires in terms of dry matter, then you'll have this cow not clamoring or trying to eat as much as anything. So once you have the hay and the quality hay, then feeding your cows becomes as easy as you can imagine. So here is our goat section. The goats stay here 24/7, and then we bring green matter that we put in the troughs the other side for them to feed on. We give them a little bit of silage in these troughs. We also give them water on the other side. We found out that some simple thing that the goats didn't need a lot of attention compared to the cows. Reason is here you are not expecting milk, and the milk, all you need is for them to add on muscle or beef or meat that you'll be selling. So we only fatten them here. And we started this as a small experiment. We've not commercially exploited it. We've been only having them for meat for the farm. Whenever we get visitors, whenever the workers need some meat to eat. So we are now expanding upwards, whereby we are going to add more goats here. And our target is also to make it a commercial enterprise. And we designed each section to accommodate 50 goats. So since there are 4, we're going to look at minimum 200 goats here. And if it's successful, then we can maybe look at another plot of land or another piece of land where we can put more structures for the goats. The beauty with these goats is that they don't eat so much, and they just require little attention. Clean for them, give them the feeds, give them water and the mineral salts, and that's it. Among the supplements on this farm that we use is sugarcane molasses. It's a cheaper source of energy for the cows, but apart from also being a cheaper source of energy for the cows, it has the ability to increase the palatability of other feeds. For example, if the cow is not interested in eating hay, the moment you sprinkle in a little bit of molasses, then the cow will be able to consume the hay that initially didn't want to take. So the molasses entice our animals to eat up as much as possible. And you know, for milk production, you need to have a satisfied cow. First and foremost, you need to have a satisfied cow, and then you look at the other quality, then the quality of the feeds come in secondary. Now, the challenge with molasses, especially in these days of Corona, is that we've been using molasses to do the spirits, alcohol, and also now making sanitizer. So the demand for molasses has been high, resulting in molasses being more expensive and unaffordable to the common farmer. This is our water tank. Basically, initially it was the rainwater tank, but now we decided to make it a dual purpose because we also have the underground water coming in here, being pumped into here. And then from here, we pump using a solar pump to the distribution tanks. We originally had another source of water, a huge reserve of water, which we'll see when we move up. But we're using pond water. And because here we are predominantly matoke growers, and matoke requires farmyard manure, so this manure would go and end up in our pond. That would increase the bacterial growth in the water, and that would still be the water will not be good for our animals. So when we realized that, we decided to go and do a shallow well, where now we pump from the shallow well to this intermediate tank, and from this intermediate tank we pump to the distribution tanks using a solar pump. Now, what we are looking for here is we're looking for the clean water, as clean as possible, because whatever is not fit for human consumption, if the water is not fit for human consumption, it's not fit for your animals. Animals require very clean water in order to give you the best production that you are looking at. This water reservoir was done in 2010 with a capacity of 630,000 liters. Purposely, the water was meant for the cows, and this being a cattle corridor, it gets a little more drier than other places in Uganda. So we thought with a huge capacity, a huge reservoir, would then have lessen our pumping times. And since we are depending on diesel, then it will be easier to control. But secondly, we also did it for irrigation. Having a prolonged dry spell, especially during the May to August period, we intended to have some areas under irrigation. We tested the quality of the water, and the test came out that it wasn't fit for human consumption, but it was okay for animals. Later on, when we consulted, we found that whatever is not fit for human consumption is not fit for livestock. But we just sometimes take shortcuts as farmers because we have nothing to do. With that at the back of my mind, we slowly invested in having a shallow well system, and we've just commissioned it. Now the shallow well is going to help us get cleaner water that will be given to the livestock, and that frees our water reservoir, and we don't want to let it remain idle. We need to use it for something else. Of course, irrigation will continue, but in the meantime, we'll be putting fish. We'll turn it into a fish tank, and then we can grow fish in there, and it becomes another enterprise at the farm. So during the rains, we use the rainwater. Now during the dry spells, we'll be using the shallow well water.
Now, how is the market for this industry? You know, because it's dairy and whatnot. As a farmer, do you think the market is there for the type of farming that you do?
The market is actually very big and inexhaustible.
Uh-huh.
The only challenge is the prices of milk in this region. They tend to be a bit low.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but being a big challenge, you know, I believe in one thing: you can't develop if you are not exposed to challenges.
Okay.
So challenges help us to develop, to think beyond the normal.
The normal.
So one of the challenges, the biggest challenge here is the price of milk. But we've been working constantly to see how we can survive despite the low prices of milk.
No.
The demand is there.
Yeah.
We've not poured the milk, we've not wasted it in any way. The demand is there, but the challenge is the low prices of milk.
Yeah.
So one of the things we are doing is, how do we work around the price to make sure we remain a little bit profitable?
Okay.
We survive in the business.
Yes.
So one of the things we identified was to try as much as possible and reduce the cost of production. Now we looked at growing our own feeds, most of the feeds, and also using the natural available feeds for animals, and also conserving the energy of this cow. If the cow is roaming around and feeding on its own, it's using a lot of energy through walking and sort of picking the grass.
Yeah.
And also the sun that hits it also, as in form of temperature, increases on its demand for more energy. Because it's stressed, and to counteract the stress, you need more energy that would now go into fighting the stress and the heat stress and so on and so forth, the perspiration and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, by housing them in one place, bring the water to them and the feeds to them, you are trying to conserve the extra energy this cow would use normally when it's scavenging for food.
Okay.
So that way you have an increased production with minimal costs.
Okay.
But we also looked at, how do we grow fodder cheaply? How do we harvest and store our feeds cheaply? The only thing we looked at was we mechanize. So you see a lot of machines there.
Yeah.
We invested in machines. It's expensive to acquire these machines, but slowly we kept on acquiring these machines. And then you acquire one machine, it changes one aspect of the production. You acquire a second machine, it also changes. We're still acquiring more other machines.
Yeah.
But in that way, we reduced our feeding costs, and then we remained afloat in the business.
Now you mentioned the challenge of, like low prices of milk. What other challenges do you face on the farm?
The other biggest challenge is
Yeah.
the labor.
Ah.
Our young people are not committed to work. All they need is to earn money, spend it, but they're not committed to
Work.
They're not interested. It's like we're pushing them. So you pick on someone, you train them, you let them work, and since you're not on the farm 24/7, we have other engagements, the moment you step away, that's the end of it.
Oh,
Work doesn't go on. You come back, people work. You are away, things don't work. So that's the biggest challenge. I wish we had dedicated labor where you know that you are employing someone, training them, and they remain committed to what they are doing.
Okay.
We are trying our level best by trying to interest them into these enterprises.
Yeah.
By trying to show them that even when they are working, they shouldn't look at working here as if it's like they're being punished or something.
Yeah.
But these are people who are working at the same time learning, and after some time, they will be able to start their own enterprises.
Yeah. How much is one cow, if you don't mind me asking?
The minimum here, we do 5 million.
Well, guys.
The minimum here, we do 5
5
million.
million.
And we are moving on to better pricing.
Oh.
So it's not only the milk, but also when you sell the cows. It's not only selling the cows and the milk, but also the dung you are stepping on.
Oh, is this
the farmers look for this dung.
Ah.
So there are so many things the cow will give you. But unfortunately, most of the people, when they are costing, they only look at one aspect, the milk. This cow will give you a calf every year.
Oh, yeah.
So this is capital that you have that you are likely to be multiplying every year. My passion is in farming. I want to look at after my cows, they give me milk and I sell my milk.
Yeah.
But if the prices continue to be that low, then we'll be drawn into minimum processing.
Oh, okay.
And the minimum processing I'm talking about is pasteurizing, then chilling and packaging. What are we targeting as a farm? If I'm going to go into the details of how milk should be, probably I might discourage you from drinking milk.
Oh, really?
And we are targeting now the people who understand the quality of milk.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feed your cows? How do you milk your cows? Are your cows being treated the right way? Do they actually fall sick and you need to treat them? If you treat them, where does the milk go? Because most of the people, if the cow falls sick and it's treated, do they observe the withdrawal period for the milk? Because a certain number of days are given before which you can't sell the milk.
Oh.
You can't drink or consume the milk.
Yeah,
but do our farmers deep in the villages respect that? Or we are exposing our people into consuming milk laden with certain drugs.
Okay.
So here, we've done it in a way that, and I've inculcated it in my people here. You treat a cow. If the withdrawal period is 3 days, we double. Because we are not wasting this milk.
Yeah.
The milk goes into feeding the cows. So we sell the right milk to the consumers.
Okay.
Why do we do this? I may sell milk here, laden with chemicals or drugs. I will make a little money. But when I go to Kampala, when all my family is in Kampala, I'm likely to be, the family is likely to be consuming the same milk
that you put out.
That I've put out.
Yeah.
So if it's not good, then I'm actually exposing my family.
True.
So, all my relatives. So think about the people who are there. Don't think, some people come up and say, no, but if these drugs are boiled, they will disintegrate. I said, no. If you boil poison, it will actually, you increase its potency. So that's the message we want to inculcate in our people, quality milk. So we are going to build on that, and we'll be looking at consumers whom we can train, show them what quality milk means.
Is, okay.
And they buy at a higher price.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's actually wise.
So we maintain our pricing.
Yeah.
You buy knowing that you trace back where this product is coming from. This farm, as a result of farming and the challenges we got in, especially in the machines, we were exposed to poor quality machines on the market. So I got a chance to source for a quality machine from one of the suppliers in Brazil.
Yeah.
And when we brought the machine here, and for another client, a friend of mine who had ordered together, we really appreciated the quality of these machines.
Yeah.
And as a result, another business was born where we started now picking machines from the manufacturer and then also giving them to our clients.
You also sell machinery.
HIGHMARK Dairy Farm now has a sister company called HIGHMARK Uganda Limited. Now HIGHMARK Uganda Limited solely imports and sells agricultural machinery.
Okay.
Dairy, milk coolers, milking machines, and choppers, forage choppers. And we found out that the quality of these machines is so good and that the farmers really appreciate what we give them. And it's a business that we are passionately growing, and we feel it's going to continue. And as a reward, we also appointed the sales agent for that company in Uganda. So you will see the machines we use here are from that company. And we have outlets in Janankumbi, Stera, in Kampala, and also in Mbarara, in Kacheka.
That's really nice information. So now, in case anyone wants to contact you, can you give us your contact info?
Yes, I can. 0784
yes.
080740.
Yeah.
I have also 0700 283950.
Yeah. Alright guys, we've come to the end of this exciting episode. Now personally, I had so much fun touring HIGHMARK Dairy Farm. I learned so much. You can contact Mr. Nicholas in case you have any questions about dairy farming. His contact info is just down below. The first comment, it's pinned. Just scroll up, you're going to see it. Now you know the vibe, you know what to do. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to our YouTube channel because we have so much content coming in about farming. We want you to get rich. See you next time.